Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 822 with a review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we are gathering together. I had some traveling for work. We are coming back together to give you a quick review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Then Stephen and I are going to sit down and watch the last few days of the remote version of the Sundance Film Festival for 2026. And then we're probably going to record a review of some sorts of as many things as we did watch. And then we'll be back to the regular scheduled program of doing a bunch of stuff. But Stephen, you excited to do our crazy shenanigans, trying to pack everything in?
I am excited. And this year, I think I have even less time. I think last year, I gave myself 3 full days, and I also squeezed like a good amount in the Thursday. This year, like, I'm stacked on Thursday, and I've got some stuff on Friday, so I'm going to squeeze like as much as I can into 2.5 days of movie watching. Have you done your homework and looked up the list of movies? Because I have not seen what is actually available to watch online versus in person.
I've done my homework so much as I have done one pass through the list and just been like, looks interesting. Basically what I did is gone through and said, sure, everything in like the world and domestic film list looks like it could be interesting, but I haven't like prioritized the list in any way. So right. I'm just kind of gonna wing it.
Peek behind the curtain. Have you done the Notion thing this year?
I have put a bunch of stuff in there. I didn't do anything in the documentary categories, so you're basically on your own for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
That stuff.
I have not done my Notion homework or anything yet, so I have no organization. But because this year it isn't only what do I want to watch, because I get it. Like, you can probably binge most of the ones in the main sections, especially if you are crazy like we were last year, but it's more what order do I watch them in, knowing that a twin list might happen again, right? Like some asshole might leak things online and then it turns out it's not available after the first day. So I think we need to prioritize movies that are likely to have that happen to them, and that is probably where a list is going to be more useful.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate thing, is not really knowing what is going to cause people to ruin it for everybody else. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Because there's a lot of unknown quantities out there for it. I just don't know. I mean, clearly the people ruining it for other people is why they pack it all into the end. They want to see how things are going and figure out what's going to happen before they do it. And also they clearly don't let every film just play in the online track. You know, it's only certain films that...
Yeah, like last year, we didn't have access to Train Dreams or If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
Yeah.
Or there were a couple other ones that wound up being like pretty big throughout the year that they didn't put in the online category.
Yeah. So it's, it's smaller things that, people who are trying to make their film big are not going to blow it on us watch from home people, but it is still nice to be able to do some watching from home, even if it's just the last 4 days of the festival. So still exciting, but we'll see what we can get.
Yep.
Cool. Well, speaking of seeing what we can get, you ready to take a little trip over to Bone Town?
I'm slathered in iodine. I'm ready to bone up.
All right. Well, let's take a listen to the trailer for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and then come back and give these fine folks a little review.
Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation. In fact, it may not even exist at all.
Oh, what is this I cannot see? Oh, I am deaf, none can accept.
Many of the things we take for granted will one day pass away completely.
I open the door of heaven and hell.
When that time comes, men will no longer communicate. may have diseases and barbarism. The whole world will cease to make any sense.
I open the door of heaven and hell.
Look at the incredible changes we've experienced and survived. And yet even greater changes are still to come.
Are you ready?
My soul shall scream in hell.
All right, so that was the trailer for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Basically, it's a direct continuation of 28 Years Later. Our little buddy Spike has been hanging out with the Jimmies, getting into some crazy shenanigans, and Dr. Kelson is off making some little discoveries of his own. Stephen Miller, what did you think of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple?
This movie is so strange in terms of its tone and its pacing, and I fucking loved it. I thought it ruled. And all I could think while I was watching it is I have no idea what Chris is going to think about this movie. Because I remember, like, I was in the tank for 28 Years Later too, right? Like I'm just into that high octane storytelling.
This is 28 Years Later too.
Yeah, I was in the tank for 28 Years Later, part 1. But I remember even that one, you felt like something about the plot structure was a little, maybe not bait and switch, but there was something about it that you found unsatisfying. And I feel like that, like the first 28 Years Later is such a traditional story compared to this one.
Yeah.
This movie just swings so wildly between its like ultra violent tones and its ultra kind of beautiful humanistic philosophy, and it's a very funny movie, it's a very musical movie, it's a very dark movie. I just thought it was such a trip to watch this late at night in a packed crowd at Alamo. And it did make me wonder if I'm broken inside, because most reviews that I've read have mentioned how intensely violent this thing is. Like, they've described it as like X-rated level, disturbing, unbelievably violent, really, really, really grisly, and how that contrasts against the humor of the movie. And I never felt remotely disturbed by the violence. I was chomping on a fried chicken sandwich during the farmhouse scene in this movie, having a ball.
They're just taking their shirts off.
Yeah, exactly. What's the big deal? For me, I thought this movie was just so stylistically interesting, and it is having just a ton of fun. Like, Nia DaCosta, I feel like, directs the hell out of this movie and is doing it in a very like anarchic punk rock way, where she's just totally foregoing normal conventions of storytelling in favor of like crazy ass shit. And I loved it. Like, I mean, there's a scene here set to Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden that my audience, and I have to assume every audience in the country, erupted into applause.
Yeah.
when it ended. It just goes all out, and it pairs all of these very intense kind of vibey, horrific mood pieces with like major lore drops. Like, they move the universe along in a very surprising way in this movie and tee up the third. When the first movie ended, I was like, yeah, I'll watch the second one, but I don't feel like I need continuity, right? Like, I didn't care about the story arc in that way. When this movie ended, I was like, damn it, if they don't do the third movie because this didn't make enough money at the box office, I'm going to be so angry. Because now I just need to know what is happening next. So yeah, we can talk about it more, because I can't stress as much as I loved it. when I look back at the story arc of this movie, it is weird. It's like three things happen. It's very strange and isolated, and each one of the things that happens feels unlike the other thing. And it doesn't make sense, and I fucking loved it. How did you feel about your trip to Bone Town?
So like what you were saying about how I felt about the first film, I think that the first film felt like there was something a little off about it. It was, that film felt like a traditional road film, and then it had these little like weird Tree of Life-y things in it. Mm-hmm. But until you got to the end where there was a character introduced, the character of Dr. Kelson, until he was there where he was talking about the universe and the importance of life and all this stuff, when the other characters were seeing that in the world, but they didn't actually have any way to articulate that, but the camera was doing it, I was like, what are you doing, filmmaker? You are doing a thing that your film isn't doing, and then all of a sudden it introduces a character that retroactively starts doing that, and I'm like, there was something like discordant about that to me that like kind of annoyed me. But then know
what's better than a Tree of Life is a Temple of Bones.
A Temple of Bones, yeah, a Temple of Death. But so in the context of that film, I was kind of like, there was just something that didn't jive with me, right? Like the beginning of it was like perfect, like just this guy taking his son out, like this is how the world is. You haven't been old enough to go out into the world. Now I'm taking you out. That whole like coming of age sort of in this world, like that was perfect. Then the in-between thing of this kid, I love my mother, I need to take her out into the world, I need to try to help her because my dad won't, like that was perfect. The going to the Bone Temple in the first film, that on its own was perfect. And there's like these three different things, and I was like, I love all of these in isolation. The mix on its own sort of didn't completely work for me. And then fucking that like stinger at the end of that movie, I was like, what the fuck am I even watching? There was just so many disparate things that like I couldn't, I just walked out of that film going like, I don't know. This film is like, the scene in Dumb and Dumber where like the two guys are like arguing with each other, and then he's like, and then you go and do this and totally redeem yourself. That's how I felt about this movie, is like this film retroactively makes the first one better for me, because it was doing this the whole time. And it's not just that because this film sits with Dr. Kelson the entire time that it proves that it was doing it the whole time. It's like the Jimmies are, the opening scene of the first film defines who the Jimmies are. Right. Like retroactively as we learn what it means and like who he becomes through what that opening scene was. And it gives it meaning in a way that's like, okay, so I understand all this whole arc of who these people were and what they become, all from just the visuals of what we saw them and what it means to this character as he grew up from who he was when he was a child. And it like gives sense to the lore, and then the stuff that we learn about the infected in this film goes all the way back to the creation of the rage virus in the first film. And I'm like, oh my god, so now it's actually exploding the world of this film, and now I'm like fully in it, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And it's like the first time, it's like the rage virus is a thing where like it happens so fast that the world, okay, so backing up in things like A Quiet Place, right? One of the criticisms some people have about The Quiet Place is like, they're fucking sensitive to sound. It should be really easy to figure that out. And like, people should be able to respond to that. And why don't people just go near noisy shit and hide that? Like there's like, you can conceive of a thing in which people would figure it out very fast. And then all of people who were surviving would just live in caves under waterfalls and like go to noisy places where there's like geysers and, live on fault lines and like do things that like protect them, go to beaches, like where there's oceans and shit, like you would understand it. But like with the rage virus, the infections happen so fast, and it's a thing where like you wouldn't even think to try to understand the virus. You just lock it down and pretend that part of the world doesn't exist anymore. Like nobody's studying it. Nobody's trying to figure out what's going on. You just fucking shut it down, get out and be like, I don't know, that whole part of the world doesn't exist anymore. Just we don't go there. NATO patrols the borders of it and maybe send some troops in there every once in a while just to clean some shit up. But like that's gone. We don't, that got deleted. Yeah. We don't care about it anymore. So like, usually you watch like an apocalyptic film or movie set in a world like this, and it's like the entire world got infected. But like the last film introduced, like there's whole normal parts of the world, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so the whole world's going on, and it's just certain sections of the world that have this problem, and we're just following characters in it.
Basically, they did a hard Brexit.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that like nobody's trying to do anything about it, and we see the ramifications of it and get to see a different style, and not just somebody who cares about the infected as the people they were before it, but somebody who's looking at it differently and stuff. And I think that this film is just doing something more interesting than what anybody has had to do before now, I guess. Like before it was just like fast zombies, you have enough to make a movie, go for it. And this film, this film has proven that these two films have been working on doing more before that. Yes, it's showing the depravity of what humans can become in this type of world and stuff like that. But it's also, it doesn't have to just be like but who are the real monsters? It's actually trying to do more with both the showing the humanity that can be there, but also just like digging into the story and showing more. So for me, this was like a really, really intriguing, very, very deep story to play around in and see. And then, as you said, that fucking scene is like mind-blowingly amazing. Like,
just give Ray Fiennes the Oscar.
like, first of all, yes. Second of all, like when he was starting to set it up, I was like, this is about to be the most brilliant thing ever. But it was brilliant in like, it was going to be brilliant in like the concept of it in Back to the Future when Marty does it. But then the level to which he commits to it, you're like, oh my fucking God, that was the most brilliant thing I've ever seen.
He's just a weirdo, I mean, he's been alone so long, like, because he could have done 10% as much as he does, and everyone would have been satisfied and walked away. But he's like, "Fuck it, I've only got one shot."
That's the thing too. Is like Jack O'Connell watching him going like this. He's like, I wanted you to do me a favor, but this is even like I believe now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was amazing. So that was worth it. Like if I hated this movie, that would have brought me around. Like that would have been worth the price of admission. But I didn't hate it. I love this movie. But yeah. So big fan. Retroactively made me. I mean, I would still recommend with a caveat the first film too. Right. in this little, hopefully still a trilogy. But I think that this retroactively made me think of the full unit of work here as like, okay, yeah, these have to be two pieces of a whole to actually make sense. They need each other to kind of fill that gap, because this film can't work in isolation. You need the relationship between these characters. You need like who they know each other as to make them as impactful in that same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I really liked the first movie too, but the epilogue, like the ending of the first movie, was one of those things where I remember saying, I don't know what they're doing with this, but I'll like withhold my judgment of it until I can see what the next movie does. Because my concern of sorts at the end of 28 Years Later was we get introduced to Jack O'Connell. I was getting him and Josh O'Connor's name confused. Jack O'Connell.
Yeah, Jack O'Connell.
Yeah, Jimmy Crystal and the group of the rest of the Jimmies. And, they're doing flips and stuff, and they're wearing their little Teletubby outfits while also dressed like a famous sex predator in the UK. And I was like, is the next movie gonna have this guy be the hero? Because I don't know how they're going to make him seem cool or seem normal, because this seems very far out there. And I was very relieved when this movie opened of like, oh no, he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like it is much, much, much easier to understand that character and that group of characters through the context of his trauma and the stories that he's brought other people up believing, and the history of how his group works and how people get inducted into it. It all made so much more sense. So for me, that was like that was the check that this movie retroactively was able to cash, like that the first movie had kind of teed up. Because yeah, it's great. I do love that it closes the loop all the way back to the opening scene of the first movie, in a way where, again, it lets you kind of take your time to understand it. Like at first, I didn't really understand what Jack O'Connell was doing as the leader of the Jimmies. You know, even maybe I'm dumb, but even I'm not going to spoil too much of this movie, but in the beginning of the movie, Spike basically has an opportunity to fight to either make it into the Jimmies or die, right? Like,
yeah.
And it presents it as like this is a calloused group, right? But everyone in this world is kind of calloused. Like they've learned how to have to use violence, right? You have to kill or be killed. And so even when that happened, I still wasn't convinced that I was watching a group of the villains. You know, I wasn't sure what the movie was going to do with these ruffians, or if this was going to be like I don't know, Yondu or whatever the guy's name is in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like they're going to be like rough and tumble people, but it turns out in the end they're useful, right?
Yeah.
And the way this movie just like doles out the information of how monstrous Jack O'Connell can be, and then doles out what are his genuine beliefs versus the things he says just to manipulate people, I think it's just brilliant. Like you get layers and layers and layers of this villain in a way that works basically through to the very end. And then you have this totally separate storyline that the movie keeps cutting between, which is very calm, gentle, Dr. Ian Kelson doing his experiments, listening to music by himself, kind of trying to figure out what life is for when you're all alone and you're trying to do the right thing, but there's really no one around to do the right thing with. And it's such a like tonal mismatch between that and the like Hostile sequel that we're watching, you know? And it's just such an interesting thing where by the end of the movie, it all gets combined together in this very satisfying way. I don't know. I like don't even understand how to explain it, because when I look back at this movie, and I don't think this will be too spoilery, there are basically 3 things that happen, or maybe just 2.5 things that happen. There is Spike and the Jimmies go to one place. Okay, that's one thing that happens. Meanwhile, Ian Kelson does some experiments. Finally, the 2 meet up. That's it. That's like the whole movie. There's not epic battles with rage zombies, you know, there's not like run away, the horde is chasing you. There's not like meet a ton of people along the trail. It's very, very, very stripped down and simple, but every component is executed so well. I just was like levitating when I was leaving the movie.
Well, So one of the things that I frequently, and maybe it's just because we're in, we for so many years we've been in the age of peak TV, but this trilogy is truly like the thing that I always say is like I wish this movie was not long enough. I wish it was like a miniseries or like a TV show. This so far this trilogy feels very, very much set up like a season of television, right? Because so far the first film was like a couple episodes of a show, right? Like the kids go out, they do their thing, we introduce the world. Like it's like the pilot episode is the going out and introducing the world. Then the next one is we meet the guy, right? Then the next one is bringing the mother out. Then the next one is the actual having of the ceremony and everything. Then we get like, it's all a series of connecting different groups of people together, and then this one is kind of a 3-episode arc, right? It's like the what happens with the first group, then we introduce the other people, and then what's going on with their chaos. They find out about Dr. Kelson, and then it's traveling to go to him, and then it's like everything that happens at that location, right? So it's like we've essentially watched 6 episodes of a short series, right, so far. And it's like this as like an extended television show would feel like we're now halfway through a season of a show or something right now. Right. So it's just interesting the way it doesn't feel like a lot happens, but we have learned so much from these 2 films that like we haven't learned from any other of the stories.
Yeah, so. I think and I guess it's worth doing a brief spoiler section just in case anyone has not been spoiled as to what we learned in this movie. I think that's worth talking about, both what Ian Kelson discovers and then also characters we meet toward the very, very, very end, because it really is interesting to think about what they're trying to do with the 3rd installment.
Yeah. So should we do verdicts and then get into the spoilers?
Sure.
All right. So Stephen Miller, if you're going to give us a must-see, recommend with the caveat, wait for rental, pass with the caveat, or must avoid, what would you give it?
Must-see. This movie rules. I mean, I loved it. My audience loved it. I was so excited to just get this like visceral hit of filmmaking, like a movie that just knows exactly what it wants to do and goes all out to make it happen. This movie is awesome.
Yeah, it's a must-see for me as well. It would have been amazing to have watched the 2 films back to back. Like, I don't know. I would have come out of that first film way differently if I had seen these together as one film, just because I would have had the whole complete picture of what at least those first 2. It's still possible that the 3rd one that might not get made could not stick the landing for me, but as of right now, these first 2 in this trilogy, fucking nailing it so far. Very, very excited. As Stephen has requested, we're about to get into spoilers, but for people who are not going to stick around for spoilers, Stephen, why don't you tell people where they can find you throughout the week?
You can find me at Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. That music is going to fade up, and while you're rocking out to that, we're going to get ready for spoilers. That music's going to fade out, and we will be in full-blown spoiler territory, and that's where the zombies come running at you fast, so watch out. We'll be back. All right, we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of a review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. We are talking full-blown spoilers. Stephen Miller, where would you like to start out?
I guess there's a few things to talk about, but we should probably start with the most important lore drop, which is... So Dr. Ian Kelson is spending his days with Samson. We saw that he already was kind of studying him when Spike met him in the first movie. But here he's testing the waters a bit more. He's been shooting him with some mixture of morphine and other things, I believe. And Samson is a little bit addicted to it, it seems like. He starts coming back for more. And when he gets those painkillers in him, he calms down. Right, he doesn't want to murder Dr. Ian Kelson anymore. He chills with him. They vibe out. Rafe Fiennes also does some drugs, and they just like hang out together, vibing. Like it's a very comedic scene.
That's his biggest experiment. Is this drug is going to affect me more than Samson?
Yeah,
I'm going to do it if I wake up alive.
Yeah, that means I've done something, right?
Yeah, that means he's truly savable.
Yeah, exactly. And so he learns that, right? He learns that you can at least kind of pacify these creatures and they have some level of personality or kindness, right? It isn't like he's just turned into this kind of zombified, no offense to the rage people, but he isn't just
rage
like
people.
You know, he isn't just, well, I think that word is offensive to the rage monsters. But he isn't just like in a trance, right? He is softened but still has personality. And then he decides, look, I'm running out of morphine. The most humane thing I can do is, while Samson is still happy, I can kill him, right? Yeah. I can inject him with something that will let him peacefully die.
Yeah, I can put him in a Jody coma.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. 10 comedy points. God, that was good. Anyway, instead of putting Samson in a Jody coma, Samson says the word moon. And that blows everything wide open, because all of a sudden he realizes, oh my gosh, there is still
there's a Samson in there. He's a person in there still.
Yeah, like his brain has not fully been taken over by the virus, right? And so he learns to combine the pain medication with like psych meds. I forget the name.
It's antipsychotic.
Yeah, antipsychotics. And he doesn't really live to see this. He just barely does. But Samson is cured, right? Like, we see him.
I guess we'll find out in the third movie, but
he is at least temporarily cured.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he gets to experience a cure for an amount of time, but my assumption is not that is a permanent cure. Like,
right.
I don't think that
we don't know.
Like, a cocktail of 5 pills is enough to. I assume that stuff wears off after a while. But
yeah, I mean that's what I was thinking. It probably should be that way logically. Like, antipsychotics you don't take them once and then have them be finished. That just becomes your life.
Yeah.
Is taking them. But still, I want to believe that this is setting us up for Samson and Spike become Chewbacca and Han in the next movie, and they're just like hanging out.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we get to see the alpha, right? This thing that in the first movie, when we watched it, that was the most extreme new addition. Like, rage monster. You and I didn't even know the lore. Like, were they born after the virus? Are they new evolutionary? I remember us talking about the evolutionary time it would take and debating it. And no, they're not. They were people who were alive back then, and the virus has just like pulsed further for them or whatever. And so now they are giant, filled with rage, big swinging dicks, can rip out people's heads with the spinal cord still intact. And the most extreme monster of the last movie is now revealed to be a person with memories of being on that train and knows language and wants to live. And it's just like blows everything wide open in a way that I don't know what they're going to do. I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't do something with it in the third installment, if it's just like, Dr. Ian found that, and unfortunately he died, and so he got the satisfaction of knowing before he died, and that will be the last that we hear of the cure. Yeah,
well, that's the thing, is like what I was saying kind of earlier, is that the way the world has decided to deal with this is they will eventually starve, and that is the only idea people have for the problem. And what he has discovered is that this is as much a psychological problem as it is a virus problem. That the virus brings on a psychological aspect, that the psychological part is the rage part, which again goes all the way back to the very first film, where like all the monkeys are in the cages watching all the violence of humanity, and just like it is feeding that rage aspect of the thing, and that's what. And then when the the little people let them out of the cages and everything happens and gets crazy. But so there's just, I don't know, there's just like a lot going on there that just, I don't know if he scrawled something down Like, he obviously has journals, right? So he's been writing all the things. So there is a book in his thing. So maybe Spike's going to find that and be like, guys, I have the cure, or whatever's going to happen. Or maybe they do become Han and Chewbacca for a while, and then eventually Chewbacca gets really angry again. He's like, I don't feel so good.
I'm imagining that Chewbacca growl while blood spurts out of his mouth.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe eventually Han
I think
Chewie
there's a
down.
chance in the lore that they're setting up this cure is permanent, because the virus is something like a vicious cycle, and if you break the cycle, it doesn't have that hold on the body anymore.
Like, if you break it long enough, then it doesn't feed itself enough to keep it going. So it
could be that
without
the virus,
body starving.
Yeah, exactly. It could be that the virus can't really survive without a host that is perpetuating it, and that just breaking both parts of what the virus does at the same time is enough. But I mean, we'll see in the next installment.
Oh, because slow zombies need brains, but the fast zombies, it's actually adrenaline, and the adrenaline is spiked by the fear caused by the psychological aspect. So if you're calmed, you're not spiking the adrenaline. The virus can't feed off the adrenaline, and eventually, if you're calm enough, the virus just dies in the system, and then you pee it out.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. You pee it out. So yeah, that is that is obviously like the giant new addition in this saga, and the one that really surprised me as to where they might be going in the third movie. And honestly, I don't even care. I don't care if they use it in the third movie or not. Just like the idea that we have learned something about this virus from the very first movie is just so interesting to me.
Yeah. It's pretty great. All right. So now on to Jimmy and the Fingers.
Yeah. What act of charity do you want to do?
So, obviously, I don't remember if it was in the trailer that we played, but in one of the trailers, we get to see the scene where Jimmy, he goes and he meets Dr. Kelson, and he's like, "Are you old Nick?" And he's like, "Do you mean Satan?" So Jimmy thinks that his father is Satan. And you're like, well, how could that be? Do you know that your father was a priest? Obviously, a priest can't be Satan. But as a child, you don't know a lot, but he knows his dad was a priest, but his dad believed that the zombie apocalypse was caused, or the rage monster apocalypse was caused by the sin of the world, and that it was a punishment. And what he saw was his dad save him by putting him in a little grate. But what he did, his dad actually got eaten by zombies.
Right.
But what he saw was his dad charging forth, screaming that the earth needed to die, with zombies running behind him. And to him, it looked like his dad running, charging forward, leading the horde of zombies to smite the earth. And he just internalized that as he was scared, as like, my dad, who was chanting like everybody's dying on purpose because this is their punishment, and then my dad was running out leading the zombies to kill everything, and he just internalized the idea of like, oh, that was my dad bringing the punishment to the planet. Now I have to bring a punishment to the planet because my dad must be Satan. Like, it all makes sense.
Really, it all fits, and you can also read it as like a criticism of fire and brimstone-y type religion, like this guy who was a priest but was clearly a priest who was interested in preaching like the sin of mankind and how they would be punished and everything, is indistinguishable from Satan in the mind of a child, and that informed, because I didn't know for a while what, like, even, I'll be honest, I think I had heard of Old Nick as like a shorthand for Satan before. I don't think that's something this movie made up. Like, I think that's a thing but maybe not. Either way,
I don't know.
For like half the movie when he was talking about Old Nick, I didn't know he was talking about Satan. Like, I didn't know who he was saying he was talking to or who he was praying to. He was saying his father, so I assumed it was like imagining the ghost of his dad, but I thought he was just fucking with the other Jimmies with the fingers, you know?
Yeah.
I thought he had invented a lore to make it so he could be the leader, so he could have a gang of people, and he's just like fucking around because he can, you know, being weird because why not? And instead, over the course of the movie, you start to learn, like, no, he actually believes this, and he believes it so much that when the other Jimmy Inc. Tells him that she saw old Nick, he has to go and see for himself. Like, he believes there is a chance that Ray finds is actually his dad, who is Satan.
But so that's the most brilliant thing to me. Like, this is why I love this movie so much. Is so he's a grown-ass man now, right? Mm-hmm. But he's been fucking on his own with this misfit band of people that he's put together who the only like adult has been him. But he's also
this, like,
just
fucked
a
up
child.
Peter Pan, basically.
Yeah. He's basically fucked up Peter Pan. In this like shitty island of Neverland with just zombies everywhere that he thinks are things that he leads into the world. So the fact that like he's never had the ability to learn or discern anything differently, and there's no reason for him to imagine there's a fucking bone temple out there. And then he just like his brain's all messed up. So he thinks he's hearing messages from his Satan father. And then somebody's like, oh no, I saw a man with red skin in a temple made of bones talking to one of the demons. And he's like, you saw it? And then he's like, take me to it. And then he's like, I'm not crazy. This is real. Like, and then he's like, I need to, you stay here. It's like,
and I love that intro and how much Ian Kelson has to process at the same time. Like, like, are you Saint Nick? Okay, phew, I thought you were my dad. He's like, okay, so that means you believe your dad is Satan.
You're a Satanist. I'm a doctor. So,
yep.
All our cards are on the table.
Yeah. It's and then what I really love too is, so Ian Kelson, by all accounts, is going to just do his Iron Maiden thing and say the terrible things that Jimmy wants him to say and release them back into the world so he can continue his experiments. You know, you maybe want to believe that in another world he would refuse to do that because he doesn't want to perpetuate harm, but what he's discovered about Samson is too important. So now he'll do whatever he can to keep living. But then he recognizes Spike and has this brilliant plan, which is just to add a fourth commandment, which is crucify Jimmy Crystal,
my son.
And it's amazing because it's actually like a checkmate move against Jimmy Crystal. You know, there's no way for him to keep his fingers and stay alive because either he admits that he has been lying about that being his dad or he gets crucified. And it's just like, God, such a fucking smart guy, Dr. Ian Kelson.
Yeah. It's so brilliant. And that's why if it was a television show, it would have ended on him saying it, and that would have been the episode ending, right? And then you'd have to wait a whole week to be like, what?
Yeah. Kick so much ass.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, you could hear a pin drop in the in the theater when it happened. It was so great. I guess
the last thing I want to bring up is there is a survivor from the farmhouse who runs away. I have to imagine if there is a third movie, she's going to intersect again, and I'm really curious what they're going to do with that character too, just to like bring everything together again.
Yeah. You mean the person who takes no action until the last possible second?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no way she thought she was going to be able to beat them. I think it was just when she realized that the guy was being tortured, she was like, I have to do something.
I feel like at that point, it's like, it just seems like you either run away before that stuff starts happening, or you don't wait until like they literally do it to every single possible person and then be like, okay, now that everybody has no skin, I'll maybe help the last person.
Well, but they were going to remove his pants. I mean, come on, that's just a low blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely waited a while. Not the most decisive person on the planet.
They're going to remove his Samson.
Yeah.
All right.
We did it.
We did it. Good movie. Good movie.
Yeah. Good times.
All right.
We'll be
Thank you,
back to talk about... Look, I'm not going to shoot too high this year. I'm going to say I will have seen at least 15 Sundance movies. I think you're going to smoke me. But that is the benchmark I'm shooting for in my 2.5 days of watching.
We'll see if my brain doesn't turn to mush by the end of the second day.
Yep.
I'll be like, I'll hit 15 and be like, you know what? That's good, maybe.
Yeah, it's a good number. It's a good number to aim for.
But yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.